A nurse who works in Georgia has just contributed to a whistleblower complaint.
As a nurse, I took an oath that my life, when I step in, no longer was my life, it became the lives of others.
Immigrant women at that facility have told her they have routinely been sent to a gynecologist.
Everybody he sees, he's taking all of their uteruses out, or he's taken the tubes out.
Before the video starts, I have a message to all the men that are thinking of changing the channel right now. Women's rights and women's equality have been a thing for a long time now, and we need to be concerned about it. Equal pay, equal jobs will never come for women until men support them. It's true. Everybody needs to be involved. And it's high time that we push our country into the future and be an example for the world. And let's make everyone equal. With that said, watch the video.
Women can understand how invasive, how violating a hysterectomy is, particularly an unwarranted one. It deals so much with your personhood, your worth as a woman in many instances, if it is not voluntary, if you have not consulted with your physician, if you have not consulted with your family members, and if you have not determined that you are ready not to be of childbearing status. So it hit me in my heart, in my gut.
She woke up from a medical procedure only to be told by a doctor she would likely not have any children.
At what point did you realize that you had had surgery?
When I woke up and I saw the incisions.
I became a whistleblower. Now I'm a target. But I'll take a target any day to do what's right and just, than sit and be a part of what's inhumane.
Hysterectomies were performed on detained immigrant women.
These lawyers tell us that they knew of women who said that they were afraid to go to this doctor.
Is performing forced sterilization.
So he or she had made the judgment call during surgery to remove one of her fallopian tubes.
There were women who were told that they needed a hysterectomy because they had cancer.
They were the victims of unwanted and unnecessary.
These women would be taken from the facility to his practice.
And she woke up from the procedure.
These women would be taken from the facility to his practice.
Everybody he sees, he's taking all of their uteruses out, or he's taken the tubes out. Goodness, he's taking everybody's stuff out.
A nurse who works at an ICE detention facility in Georgia has just contributed to a whistleblower complaint. She says that in her time working at this ICE detention facility, it's a detention center in Irwin County, Georgia, she says that immigrant women at that facility have told her they have routinely been sent to a gynecologist who has performed unnecessary procedures on them, including hysterectomies. Just to underscore that, the allegation here is that this is a federal facility, and they have been sending immigrant women in their care, in their custody, to a doctor who has removed their reproductive organs for no medical reason and without them consenting to it.
Okay, so this is Irwin County Detention Center. These are all the vans that apparently transport the female detainees to Irwin County Hospital, where they've apparently been getting these surgeries. And I'm seeing some detainees in the yard right there. I don't see any women, but I think we should just try to go talk to them. What's your sense of what's going on?
I went to a dental appointment, and there was a female in the car, and they said they were just up and taking, giving them surgery to tell them something was wrong with them, giving them surgery.
The female detainee told you that?
Well, she was telling me, like, a lot of females, they're scared, they don't want to do anything, no type of medical, due to the simple fact of what's going on.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Hi, good. I'm Gianna. Nice to meet you.
Hey, could you guys kind of step back for me?
Sure, no problem, no problem.
Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. You know, it's hard to get in there. It's hard to reach detainees. That's part of the MO of this detention center right now, is just limit the amount of information that's coming out of here. LaSalle Corrections, which operates the facility, denies all wrongdoing.
The lawyers that they say they went to leadership, to management at this facility and said, look, you have a problem with this doctor. Our clients are afraid to go back to them. He is hurting these women. And they continued for years to keep using this gynecologist to perform this care. Now, right now, ICE has not responded to that new reporting.
According to the nurse, ICDC consistently used a particular gynecologist outside of the facility who almost always opted to remove all or part of the uterus of his female detainee patients. She's quoted as saying, everybody he sees has a hysterectomy, just about everybody. She said, adding that everybody's uterus cannot be that bad. We've questioned among ourselves, like, goodness, he's taking everybody's stuff out. That's his specialty. He's the uterus collector.
That lawyer tells us that as many as 15 immigrant women were given full or partial hysterectomies or other procedures for which no medical indication existed. Now, we reached out to ICE with these accusations. They sent us a long statement disputing these allegations and the implication that detainees are used for experimental medical procedures.
We were able to track down several women still inside the detention center who saw the gynecologist at the center of this, Dr. Mahendra Amin, who denies wrongdoing. They agreed to talk to us, even though they say women face retaliation for talking to the media.
Anna is calling you from Irwin County Detention Center. This call may be monitored or recorded.
He jammed it in there, very rough. He then did a finger exam. I told him that it hurt, and he told me to just hold still for me to sit back down. And I told him I couldn't because it was hurting me so much. He then put through his fingers, but after that, and whenever I was wiping, there was blood on the sheet that I used to wipe myself with.
At what point did you realize that you had had surgery?
When I woke up and I saw the incisions, it turns out that I didn't need the procedure that was performed.
We did not predict that there were this many women, and our government has not only not protected them from harm, but in some cases has retaliated against them and punished them when they have come forward.
An immigrant from Cameroon who's been in the U.S. since the age of 2. And Binham's lawyer told All In today that while Binham was in detention at the Irwin County ICE facility, a doctor recommended a procedure known as a DNC to treat menstrual irregularities. And when Binham woke up from that procedure, she says the doctor told her he'd also removed one of her fallopian tubes, something she says she did not consent to or even know was going to happen. This morning, Pauline Binham was about to be deported until she was removed at the last moment from a flight out of Chicago. She was in O'Hare on that plane, taken off of it. She would have been deported if it was not for a last-minute intervention from my next guest. Here with me now, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, Democrat of Texas, who stepped in on Pauline Binham's behalf today.
This potential deportation of someone who was seemingly involved in what appears to be widespread hysterectomies out of a particular center. She was in my jurisdiction in Houston, not presently involved, and I want to make mention of the fact, very open to our plea that this might be a large congressional investigation, and we needed to make sure that Pauline, who had been here, as you've said, since she was 2 years old, would not be deported. This morning we found out that what was supposed to be a temporary pause on her deportation had actually not been implemented, and she was on the way to being deported by a commercial flight. Pauline is potentially involved because of the courageousness of Dawn Wooten in a major investigation about health care in our detention center. There seemed to be no reason for her to not have access to the process of a stay, which has not yet been ordered. But I'm grateful that my argument that this was so important, this was so large, that Pauline needed to be removed from that plane.
This scandal escalated the week of the U.S. presidential election. While the world was consumed by the news cycle, ICE was quietly trying to deport women who saw Amin, potential key witnesses in the federal investigation. ICE denies these allegations and says they're fully cooperating. We found these women and reported their stories.
Well, Well, I've noticed that the women, like the girls that are speaking up, they're getting deported, like they're getting rid of them. They're getting rid of us.
I'm a nervous wreck now. I'll probably be boarding a flight to have deportation tonight, so I'm, stressed out.
How do you know you're being deported tonight?
My money's been taken out of my account. Usually when your account gets wiped out clean and they max it out to 0, and it says check on there, it's usually for deportation.
Even though supposedly my deportation got stopped, if I don't answer, it's because I'm not here or because something happened,
We've filed stay requests with ICE. ICE has denied them. We have filed discretionary releases. We've filed stays of removal. They've all been denied. ICE's removal of women who are potential victims and plaintiffs to medical abuse, possible medical battery, possible fraud that occurred in that detention center, that is tampering with witnesses, it's interfering with the criminal investigation, it is retaliatory.
It is tragic that some of these individuals may have already been deported. And I believe if we can find them, the IG has to find them and in essence, find a way to ensure that their testimony, their information is garnered for this investigation. By the way, let me be very clear. These are for-profit, private, controlled detention centers.
22 women shared graphic stories in support of a lawsuit filed by court yesterday alleging poor treatment. Maria Villarreal shows us how many fear retaliation for speaking up. They say they're at risk of imminent deportation.
Immigration Customs Enforcement says that they deny all claims of retaliation, and they say that they did not speed up any deportation of these women. But this new complaint describes allegations of dozens of procedures that patients and also an independent team of doctors that was hired by lawyers and advocates say was medically unnecessary.
These are procedures that carry risk. They require sedation. They require anesthesia in the operating room. And when you talk to these women, they really had no idea that they were going to have these procedures done.
So there is a concern from the review board that more damage could have been done to these women than they even know about.
Certainly, that is a profound concern that we had.
Attorneys say attempts to obtain full records for all the women have been blocked.
We do not have all of the records. All of the records for all of these women are controlled and held by the federal government.
Lawyer Ilora Mukherjee represents 2 Irwin detainees.
There is a culture of brutality and dehumanization at the Irwin County Detention Center. Women are terrified that if they speak to the federal investigators, that they will be deported in retaliation for speaking out.
That's exactly what Hiromi Navarro says happened to her.
I am in Mexico because I spoke up, because they deported me for being outspoken.
She claims her deportation was expedited, leaving behind 2 daughters after raising concerns about medical procedures at Irwin.
And I always teach my daughters, even the 2-year-old, my 8-year-olds especially, speak up, baby, speak up. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid, love. Speak up.
Yesterday, a dozen or so congressional delegates, Democrats, sent a letter to federal investigators asking them to protect at least 18 of Dr. Amin's patients, saying that they are in detention right now and they are fearing for deportation. So they're asking for that protection of them because they could have crucial evidence in this case.
ICE also says that since 2018, only 2 individuals at the facility were referred to certified credentialed medical professionals for hysterectomies. Of course, the referred is the question here.
The whistleblower said that an off-site doctor supposedly performed the surgeries on women who complained of heavy menstrual cycles, but that many women seemed to not understand what had happened. In many cases, nurses obtained consent from patients by simply Googling Spanish. And again, how little do you have to care about the well-being of an individual to not even bring in a translator to talk to them about the long-term effects of having the surgery, the fact that potentially you will not be able to have children. And this happened to a number of individuals who didn't ask for it, didn't know what was going to happen, but they were at the mercy of these facilities. And these facilities apparently thought, it'll shut them up. And what do you know? Maybe we stop some of these people from reproducing in the future. That is a story that we have seen played out in America many, many times over its history, the sort of callous disregard for reproductive health and freedom.
Last week, after a flurry of bad press and pressure, a U.S. Attorney's Office agreed to pause all deportations of Amin patients. But then, within 25 hours, ICE backed out, saying someone at the top didn't agree to it. A federal judge weighed in, ordering a pause to deportations until February. But there are still countless women who have already been deported before testifying. That's exactly what happened to a woman named Yuridia. She was deported to Mexico just 3 days after her surgery.
As a child, what did you know about America?
Pues nada. Empecé a pensar en la oportunidad. Dije, ¿por qué no? ¿Por qué no para mejorar una vida mejor para mí y pues para mis papás y ayudar a mis hermanos?
Once Yuridia arrived in the U.S., she found work, got married, and started a family. But soon after, she experienced a series of domestic violence incidents. In one altercation, Yuridia ran to the neighbor's house. They called the police. When they arrived, there was no translator. Yuridia was arrested. Her partner was not.
A mí nunca se me dijo por qué me arrestaron si yo era la que yo estaba golpeada. Y todavía sin no tener familia, la angustia que me provocaron, ¿qué iba a pasar con mis hijas? Estaban con mi vecina, pero...
Yuridia was sent to Irwin County Detention Center, and 10 weeks later, she was ordered to see a doctor.
Why did you originally see the doctor when you were there?
Cuando yo llegué con una inflamación del lado de mi costilla izquierda y muy débil. Yo me sentía muy débil.
Was that because of the domestic violence incident?
Sí, porque cuando ella me vino, pues fue parte de los golpes. Entonces, yo lo traía mi inflamada. Me pasa a una oficina y me doy cuenta que es un ginecólogo. Es cuando él me dice, entra el doctor, la que habla español, inglés, y me dicen que se me va a hacer un solograma. Y de ahí veo al doctor que pone en la cámara un condón, entonces lo introduce en mi vagina. Y empieza a checar. La pantalla está de este lado y me dice, tienes un quiste y una infección.
So, I have some of your medical records here. When you first went to see Dr. Amin, did you have, and I'm listing the symptoms that are listed here, did you have chronic pelvic pain?
No.
Before your surgery, at any point before your surgery, did you have chronic pelvic pain?
No.
The second diagnosis that he has here is a medical term that means basically that you had a very heavy period that lasted longer than normal. Is that true?
No, mi periodo nada más ha sido de 7 días y ha sido frecuente cada mes, igual.
The next one is that it's a medical term for pain during menstruation.
Mi menstruación ha sido normal y nunca he tenido dolores porque de hecho yo no tomo tampoco ni medicina para los dolores de menstruación ni nada de eso.
Yuridia says Amin gave her an injection which caused her to sweat and have abnormal mood swings. She cried a lot. 3 weeks later, Amin told Yuridia the cysts were still there and that she needed to have surgery.
Empiezo a preocuparme y yo acostada estoy viendo los focos. Veo a un doctor que viene, me pone una jeringa en la manguerita del suero que tenía y de repente ya no veo nada, ya no supe nada de mí. Cuando despierto, pues estoy en mi habitación y me empiezo a ver, cuando me quito que me dicen que me vista, los puntos en mi... un punto aquí, un punto aquí, un punto aquí. Y adolorida aquí, entonces empiezo a tener mucho dolor. Y me empiezo a agarrar así el estómago y por adentro me siento vacía. No me dijeron qué me hicieron, no me dieron un papel, no me enseñaron qué me hicieron. Que yo me sentí como me estaban tratando, me sentía como un experimento.
I just wanted to be absolutely clear. Before you had surgery, did you know you were going to have surgery and did you consent to it?
No.
A team of the country's top OBGYNs evaluated Yuridia's medical records and found there was no clear indication or medical reason for her transvaginal ultrasound, hormonal injection, or surgery based on her medical records. Amin continues to deny all wrongdoing and insists the independent doctors only received partial records. One doctor who reviewed records said Amin may have saved a woman's life.
So in the home care instructions, like the aftercare instructions that you received, or at least that are in your medical records, it says that you were supposed to have a follow-up appointment with the doctor after 2 weeks. Did you have that appointment?
No, no tuve una cita después. A mí me deportaron el día 31 de agosto del 2020 a 3 días de mi operación.
Yuridia says she was crippled with pain as she was forced to board a bus, flight, and then 2 more buses to get back to her parents' home in Saltillo, Mexico.
If people are deported from the United States, the opportunities to return to the United States are extremely limited. The only way that they could return is if their original deportation order is reopened. That's very difficult to do.
Against all odds, Yuridia and her 6 daughters may be able to return to the U.S. A judge has agreed to reopen Yuridia's removal proceedings.
Para ellas, ¿cómo me voy a ir sin que ellas no lloren porque van a decir otra vez te vas, mamá? Entonces, es que no las quería dejar porque yo sé que para ellas estoy empezando otra vez la confianza que pues ellas se sienten que las dejé.
Claro, normalmente una persona que estaba detenida cuando empezó su proceso y regresa después de que ese proceso es reabierto, ellos la toman otra vez en custodia, entonces eso es lo que estoy tratando de negociar.
Estoy nerviosa.
¿Por qué? Cuéntame, ¿para regresar?
Sí. Porque yo lo miraba como todavía que se te va a tardar mucho y ya.
Te digo las cosas como lo mejor que podemos esperar y lo peor que podemos esperar y vamos a ver dónde caemos en ese medio. ¿Ok?
Un gato, mira un perro, allá va un perro.
You've experienced such extreme trauma in the U.S. Why do you want to go back?
Su oportunidad de vida es allá. Entonces, como madre, yo no puedo negarle a una oportunidad a un hijo por miedo. Dame la mano. Es por mis hijas. Es por mis hijas que yo salgo y me paro.
Everybody he sees, he's taking all of their uteruses out or he's taken the tubes out, their tubes out. What in the world?
And what happened is that when the story broke, these attorneys started talking to each other. In the past, they had individual clients, but they weren't necessarily talking about what their clients were experiencing. And I think that when the story broke, it really led them to start to talk to each other and realize that they each had clients with similar experiences. For example, one set of attorneys said that, often what might happen is a woman is told that she has ovarian cysts and she goes in to the doctor to supposedly get those ovarian cysts drained, and then she ends up with a medical procedure that is either a partial or a full hysterectomy. And this was stunning to me. And so at least 17 to 18 women who are represented by attorneys have had these unnecessary medical procedures, according to these attorneys, who are extremely reputable. I know them, have worked with some of them, really do trust what they are saying. Now, in addition to that, Rachel, as you know, many of the people who are in immigration detention are pro se. They're completely unrepresented. They don't have attorneys. I think that if this was happening to these individuals that have attorneys and we're just finding out about it, it is possible that this is even larger.
When we first had the first case of COVID there in the facility, it was COVID is not here in the facility. Then we had another case and it was like COVID was not here in the facility. We had several more cases and it was like COVID was not here in the facility. There was not a proper separation of those detainees whenever they come in. There's a 14-day incubation period. They weren't separated. And as a human, you just don't treat people inhumane. I have a title as a licensed practical nurse, and I protect my title with dignity, to where I was raised by you treat people as you want to be treated. The sanitation, especially during COVID, the sanitation was horrible. We didn't have anything to sanitize with. We didn't have the proper PPE. So they didn't have the proper PPE. They didn't have anything to sanitize with while they were down in the dorms as well. And when you ask, you will be reprimanded.
I've seen the conditions inside the facility throughout times passing. I decided to become a whistleblower. I was called in one day and I was demoted. And I know I was demoted because I raised questions about why. As a nurse, I took an oath that my life, when I step in, no longer was my life, it became the lives of others. I was told that when they bring immigrants in, that they were a head count for pay. It's not an attack on LaSalle, and it's not an attack on ICDC. All I want is that people are treated and triaged medically correct, and they're treated in medical timeliness. I became a whistleblower. Now I'm a target. But I'll take a target any day to do what's right and just, then sit and be a part of what's inhumane.
We are citizens of cities. We are citizens of countries. But together, we are citizens of the world.
I have a dream. My poor little children one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
There is no justification in any circumstances to deal with people in an inhumane way. None, none, none. Don't tell me that we can't restore hope in this country. Don't tell me that anything is beyond our capability. This is America. We've done it before, and it's time to do it again.